I have a legitimate question for you. You ready? Are you a prepper? I mean it. Do you consider yourself to be a prepper? I mean, in reality, I hope so. Have you seen what's happening in the world? Even for minor catastrophes? Sure, preparing is good for this. But I think people have a very weird definition when it comes to prepping. And I hope you don't fall in this category. I want you to see in this video that may open your eyes to say, prepping is more than I think it is. Because when we talk about prepping, it's being prepared in so many ways. But I kind of look at it like an analogy of preparing a meal. I mean, you start off with, you get the ingredients, and that's good, right? You got the ingredients. Is that a meal? No, that's just the very beginning of the meal. You can't just get the ingredients. You have to have those too, obviously, but you need to have a cooking source, have a recipe, actually do something and follow that recipe, and even serve the meal, obviously. Just buying the ingredients, that's not preparing a meal. That's just simply having the ingredients on hand. And how many times in your life, I know I've done this, where you've made an absolutely terrible meal. You put everything into it and it was awful. I mean, honestly, in my age, going through many meal processes and preppings in my life, it's become very rare I make a really bad meal lately. The same thing with you too. Maybe at the very beginning you fix a meal as you're like, oh my gosh, that was certainly a Whopper. I mean, you ended up going to get a Whopper because what you made didn't even resemble actual food. So here's the thing. What happened? Practice. You practice, right? At the very beginning, making meals was like very difficult. You didn't quite have it down. But over time, over years, you're like, making the meals is a piece of cake. No pun intended. And it was just practice, 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 practice. And practice makes perfect, right? No. I mean, my martial arts students that I teach thinks it does. I practice, practice, practice. So therefore, everything I do is completely perfect. No, not at all. Practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. That should be the saying. So my students, they practice. I mean, they throw a punch. It's the crappiest punch they've ever done, and they just do it over and over. You could do the crappiest punch every day, numerous times a day, for 30 years, and you may really get good with that crappy punch, but the time you actually really punch somebody, you're going to break your hand. It's even called a Street Fighter's fracture for that reason, because you have to be able to punch in a certain way. So practice doesn't make perfect. The perfect practice of demonstration of those techniques is what makes perfect. And that's what prepping is all about, by the way. It's not simply just stockpiling or even cooking food. It's practicing so when you cook it, especially when your life depends on it, you'll be able to do it perfectly. All practice does is it makes progress. That's it. Practice makes progress. Or you could even say practice makes habit. So you keep practicing or prepping the wrong way, you will develop a bad habit. And those bad habits are bad techniques. And again, depending on the situation, literally may take your life. So perfect practice makes perfect. And that's what we should be shooting for. Now, ultimately, unfortunately, some people don't make it that far at all. It actually surprises me. And I'm not talking about people necessarily with mobility issues, but there's a lot of armchair preppers out there. And this is not a judging thing, guys. This is not simply trying to make you feel bad. I'm just trying to be that motivator for you to realize that it's not about sitting there and watching Goshen Prepping. I have some of the most amazing followers of the channel. Goshen Prepping fans rock. I love them. And I know some of them for a fact that literally that's all they do. Maybe this is you. You just sit in your armchair, watch the videos, and you're like, I just saw Eric do this. Take their sheet, check it off. I am now an expert in that. No, you're not. I mean, it's still good to watch that to get some understanding. But when it comes time to actually be doing this, especially under stress, under duress, in a crap hits the fan situation, you're going to remember how to do all that. If you don't practice with your gear, you're not going to remember how to do anything. That's just a matter of fact. And that's why I like to call them armchair preppers. It's not a derogatory thing. It's just you got to step up and do something about it. You really have. This is not a spectator sport. You can't just watch and say, look, that's how it all works. Even if that spectator sport, you basically take all the rules, notes, and everything down, and one day you want to actually do it yourself, that's fine. But if it's during an emergency situation, your brain simply will not allow it. You will cave in. And of course, we're talking about something life or death here. It's important. It's just like that meal. You can't just buy the ingredients and say, I'm good to go. Remember, if you're going to cook a meal, you have to have more of the ingredients. You need to practice, practice, practice. Now, you may stockpile, but that's not preparing. That's not prepping. Failing to prepare, you prepare to fail. You may stockpile food, but that's not preparing. That's just stockpiling. And there's way more reasons than that, by the way, not simply just to develop habit and make it perfect. There's so many reasons to be a prepper and actually physically prepare and do things. Let me go through a few. Number one, it's going to improve your response time. And in emergency situations, response time is key if you're not able to actually take care of what needs to very quickly. It's not a matter of taking care of it, but taking care of it quickly, it may cost you your life or somebody else's too. Number 2, reduces panic and stress. Oh, yes. We've been talking about this, haven't we? Fear. There's nothing wrong with fear. Fear is a good motivator. It's panic and stress because you didn't plan during that fear phase to actually do something, and therefore your panic and stress levels go way up. Number 3, my favorite, identifies weaknesses and gaps. There's been so many times I've been out in the woods camping or backpacking or whatever the case may be, and you get there and you have the equipment, you want to try this new piece of equipment now, and you don't have everything there, or it's not what you thought it was, or literally had this once, the tent was so short, it basically your legs were all scrunched up. I mean, countless examples. So it'll certainly show you what you need, and even more so, show you the areas that you need to improve upon. Number 4, it'll enhance your skill proficiency. Oh yeah, you become proficient. In fact, one of the times I was putting a tent up, it's been a couple years since I put this tent together, and guess what was not in there? The instructions. But it was like, guys, we put this tent up many times. We know this works, and we just hop to it. Proficiency, and we were able to put the tent up in no time without the instructions. Increases coordination and communication. I always talk about community. In this case, when you practice and prepare together, it really shows everybody how you can depend on each other for certain tasks like this. Number 6, ensures your equipment readiness. So it's not just about how to use the equipment, but how fast can you use the equipment? Do you have it all ready to go in a jam? If you need to get out really quickly, you have your stuff with you, off you can go. Number 7, it builds your muscle memory. Ultimately, what we're looking at is your prefrontal cortex gets wired in how to do these things. So literally, even in a stressful environment, and here's the key, even in a stressful environment, you can still perform the task. If you've never tried it before, that stressful environment will make it so this gets all confused and you will freeze. You'll not know what to do. Number 8, improves mental preparedness. So when the time does happen, when the time does come and a crap hits the fan, your stress, and physiologically speaking, you will not stress about it as much and be able to perform adequately to save your life. Number 9, it'll facilitate resource management. Oh yes, it'll definitely tell you if you have enough water. Do you have a water filter? Do you have enough food? Can you get some more over here? Do you have all your medical supplies you need? Over and over again, it'll show you exactly what you have for your resources and how to be able to manage them. Number 10, it'll help you adapt to real-world scenarios. And being adaptable is key, by the way, because you could have plan A and even a plan B and C. You need 26 plans all the way to Z, or if not more, because you have to be able to be adaptable, because guaranteed the plans you're going to make are going to fail. And number 11, teaches problem solving under pressure. It's not a matter of recipes sometimes and just following directions. Sometimes you need to be able to think quickly on your feet. If you're in a panic mode, a stress mode, and you have not been preparing for this, good luck thinking on your feet. Most people will simply just collapse mentally when that happens. Number 12, it'll enhance survival chances, and that's the key. All of this is about surviving. It's not about living through it per se. It's about getting to the end of the tunnel. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. You come out in the clearing, and it wasn't a train about to hit you after all. You're able to make it through the whole scenario, this whole situation, whatever crap hits the fan it was, so you can literally survive to the end, and therefore you can go on with life after that. And number 13, it's just plain fun. Especially if you have a community, especially if you have a family, maybe it's just you and a spouse or something. It's a lot of fun to do this stuff, by the way. We, as modern Americans or whatever country you live in, it's nice to sit in your nice lazy boy chair and have the air conditioner going or the heating and having everything at your disposal on TV and having food delivered to you through whatever, Uber or whatever those things they deliver food to you. It's fun. It's relaxing. We get comfortable, and as humans, we love to be comfortable. But it's not about being comfortable, it's about being challenged. You will never grow unless you're challenged. You'll never grow unless you're challenged. So being an armchair prepper, if you find yourself being more of an armchair prepper, we all go through this, by the way. We just want to sit back nice and comfy and cozy and write down and take notes all the time, not actually get out there. I go through that myself too. You have to be able to fight against that, because if it's not prepping, it's a waste of time. Think of it that way. Because when things are coming and bad things are coming and you have not been ready for it by actually trying it, you will fail, unfortunately. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you tomorrow.